Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar today of GDPR for Zoho CRM. All right, so let's get started now. So we will be going over the features designed to help customers towards GDPR compliance. My name is Mustaq, and I'm part of Zoho One onboarding team. And I'm doing this GDPR session for Zoho CRM, and I'll be hosting today's presentation. As always, if anyone has questions, feel free to type them out in the comment box where you just type yes. And we have our dedicated team waiting for you to answer all your questions, and I will also answer all your questions at the end of the session. I'm currently recording this webinar, and I will send out a link for the recorded webinar to all the registrants we have today. So, before we get started, let's take a look at the agenda for today. So we will be briefly going over the basic of GDPR, what it is, what it does, and how it affects an organization. So we will also look at assumptions, risk facts like well-being. We will be taking a couple of common assumptions when it comes to GDPR and see what the facts tell us. Then we will talk about the various features we have and we will be introducing to help our customers towards compliance. So here is about the GDPR. We are going to have a one-on-one about this. So General Data Process Protection Regulation. So what we will be doing here, so what GDPR is all about. It is a comprehensive set of rules that will replace the existing data protection directive and will be enforced across the EU. It is designed to empower EU residents by putting them directly in control of how they want their data to be processed and protected their data privacy. GDPR is regulation, not a directive. A directive is a set of rules presented to the entire EU that can be interpreted and implemented directly by each of the 28 countries within the Union. The new regulation, on the other hand, harmonizes data protection laws and will be implemented uniformly by one supervisory authority across the entire Union. Companies looking to serve EU residents will no longer face the patchwork of similar yet non-identical compliances requirements when it comes to data protection and privacy. So GDPR is a topic with many nuances. There are bound to be some misconceptions and misunderstandings. So let us lay down a couple of facts regarding the laws. So here are some fact examples. We have various types of lawful bases in Zoho CRM. Consent is merely one of the lawful bases of processing customer information, and the other 5 is being legitimate interest, public interest, vital interest, contractual necessity, and legal obligation. So these all are the type of lawful bases in Zoho. So we'll be looking at in detail about how the assumptions in GDPR works for you. Assumption is that GDPR does not affect organizations based outside of EU, but that is not the case. GDPR is applicable to all organizations that are established in the EU or organizations that work with personal data of EU customers. In short, GDPR applies to any business that processes the data of EU residents, irrespective of where the business is located. So all GDPR-centric features will be made available in both US and EU servers. So organizations that use Zoho CRM don't have to worry about their safe software being non-compliant. So that brings us to our features for GDPR. We have designed the features to address three work categories. Just give me a quick minute here. So let's continue from here. Okay, thank you. So things are on place, so let's continue over here. So pertaining to this GDPR, features are forced in three categories. The first thing we will be looking at data collection and data processing and data subject rights. So we will be looking at one by one, and we will first take a look at how data collection in Zoho CRM is going to help us. So the data source tracking in Zoho CRM will help you to keep a track on your customers' information, the data which is submitted from the website visitors, or the source via which the data is generated in your Zoho CRM. We have a double opt-in, which will help you to validate the data by the customer before it gets added into your Zoho CRM. So it helps you where a customer information is being pushed into Zoho CRM, also validate the interest, what you are being offered, through a double opt-in mechanism. You can ensure the quality records and dedicate resources on following up with people you want to hear from. Let's take a quick look at how the collection of data works in CRM. So before we get the collection data addressed, I want to take a quick demo on how you can enable the security levels in CRM. So when you log into your CRM account, on the right-hand side, when you click on the tool button, you have an option under Users and Control which says Compliance Settings. So this compliance settings will be turned off by default. So when you want to enable this, you will have to just go to the settings and go to the compliance settings and click on Turn On. When you turn it on, the first thing you will get on the screen is it will ask you to enable the GDPR compliance for modules and the waiting period and manage the actions when the consent is unavailable. So here you need to choose for which modules you want to enable this consent, the compliance. So let me tell you what all the modules are covered in this. You can enable the compliance for leads and contacts and vendors, which is by default. Apart from this standard modules, you will also have an option to enable this compliance for custom modules. Any custom modules other than these three modules, if you are going to create them, you will be able to add compliance to those modules as well. And once that is done, then you will choose this settings and click on Save. Once this is done, then you will get the processing data handling option here. I will talk about this in the upcoming slide. So before we move on to this personal data handling, let's go ahead and check the source, how we can get the data into CRM. So I'm going to first talk about the web form. So under the developer space, you have a web form. And this web form will help you to choose the feeds from your module like leads or contacts and simply add this form into your website. So while you are going to set this form, you get this option to enable double opt-in. This will send a confirmation unique URL to the customers, which is website visitors. They need to fill out the form, they need to click on the link and submit the record. By this way, this record will be added into Zoho CRM. So once they validate that, you may go to this record in case if you want to see what type of compliance is or what type of source is this record added. You may have to just open any lead or a contact, click on the data privacy, and you will be able to see the source over here. It will give you a clear detail about how this record is added from the source. So you have it here. It shows the source here. So now we have seen how the sources added and the data processing basis. So once you have the customer data inside your Zoho CRM, you can choose one of the 6 lawful bases for processing that information. So which is, you may just turn on this and choose one of the 6 lawful bases from here. So this is going to help you with these type of sources added over there. And this is an example which I have given here, the type of sources which will be updated. And to apply the lawful basis, you will be getting to the data processing basis. That's when you can restrict the personal information from being processed in certain activities and keep the data secure even in storage. You can also monitor and document the various processes, activities carried out on a customer's record with the timeline and audit log. So I'll show you here. So once you have applied one of the lawful bases, the data will now be under the pending. So let's say that I mark this data as consent, which means I need to send the consent form. So this form which you are going to send for the consent, before you send the form, we have been talking about the web form here, right? This is very important that when you are going to use the compliance for those regions, you need to make sure that you are going to collect the right information from your customer. Let's say if you are going to collect any secure information, which is, I would say rather, any sensitive information, you need to know if that information is required for your business. You need to only get the valid data which is used for your business purpose. So once you get those data, when you're going to set up a consent form, you may go to this compliance and settings. Over here, you will go to the consent form. And this is the form here. You may go ahead, send this form. You can customize this form, add your content, and then click on Save. Once the form is ready, you can see the form can be used in multi-language. Once the form is ready, you may go to the settings, click on Templates, and create a new template with a consent form for the leads or contacts. You can just choose a template from here, and by clicking on the Insert link, you will get the option to insert the form which you just created. You can insert this form in a multi-language and choose one of the language which you want to use it. And then when you want to apply or send a consent, you can click on the Send Email, select, and choose the GDPR consent. You can send this email. Once the email is sent, from there, the record will be moved to pending status. So we just did that for this record, and let's see what it says here. So it is in the pending status. So once you send the form for this record, it will get into waiting status. And once you receive the consent from the customer, then it will be moved to uptime. And all this data information is updated under compliance settings. So here you're going to see how many is pending, how many is waiting, and how many are uptime. How many not responded is here, and this is where you will set the preferences of the waiting period. Whether the consent which you send should be in the waiting for a month or days, you can change this days or a month and set according to your requirements. So now we have seen how to apply the consent or how to apply one of the lawful bases for the records. Now we will take a look at how we can set the privacy, how we can secure the private personal information, the sensitive information of customers. So when you're going to process the data, we have seen how we can do it and how we can set the consent form. Marking personal fields. So here under customization, you have modules and fields. Let's say we have contacts. Let's pick up the contacts now. I'm going to one of the layout in the contacts, and I have a company name here. I can edit this. Any more field which you want to make it secure, you can just edit, and you can see all these options here, right? So these options are by default already you would have seen when you are customizing your system, but the one which I'm highlighting here is the new one, which is after the GDPR, which contains personal data. So if this field is going to contain any personal data, then you can choose whether it should be normal personal data or it should be more sensitive. So by choosing this, you're making the data more secure. You will also have encrypt field option here. So if you look at this, you can restrict the personal data, and I will show you about restrictions, how you can set the restrictions of your personal data. I want to quickly let you know how encryption at rest works here. You may also encrypt the data in these settings. So once you have set this contains personal data as sensitive, you can also mark this as encrypt field. So it's going to make that field more secure and read in the computer language. So setting up the data, restrict the personal data. So how you can restrict these data which you have marked as sensitive and other things, you may go to the compliance by clicking on the settings. Okay, just give me a quick minute. I'm getting some response saying I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So just wanted to confirm. Elizabeth, we have received a message saying that you are not able to see it. Can you please tell me if you are able to see my screen? You may just type yes on the screen if you can see it. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm getting a good response from others that everybody is able to see the screen and able to hear me. I request you to please check in your end. David, you may also check if you can hear me and see the screen. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the settings and get into the compliance settings. So here, under preferences, how you can handle your personal data with this compliance. You can restrict the data transfer within Zoho apps. If you enable this, these all are the applications which you can integrate with Zoho CRM, and you can restrict any information which you are marked as sensitive or normal to be pushed to the other applications which you integrate with Zoho or not. So that you can enable if in case you don't want to push the data. If you want to restrict third-party transfer, you can enable and choose whether only sensitive or normal and sensitive data to be secured. And these are the one of third-party applications for you. So what plugin? Outlook, Slack, Google. If you don't want to share this information, which are not that sensitive, when you integrate the third-party applications. Likewise, you also have an option to restrict through API in case if you're going to integrate with API. And when you export the data or when you provide permission for others to export the data, you may just restrict if in case you want to restrict those personal data information. So this is how you can restrict on personal information of your records, of your customers' records. So we have seen how we can process the data using the form and how we can send the form to the customers. So the ways how you can send the form to the customer is what we are going to see now. When you process the data for the GDPR compliance, there are various ways how you can manage this to send the form. As I said again, sending this form, you should make sure that you're going to send the form to the right customers. If you have got the data which is illegal, or which is not, you have got the data from someone which is not legal, to send a concern to them itself is an illegal lawful base. So you need to make sure that the consent form which you're going to send it to legal data. So we have a form which can be sent by selecting those records which you have already seen by sending this email. Now let's say you want to automate this function to send this form to your customers. Also, you want to process the data processing basis. You may go to the workflow rules, create a workflow rule by just clicking on create rule. And I have created one to send the email with the consent form when the records are created and if the records are submitted from my website. So I have an email associated, and also I have asked to update the field, which is data processing basis. And it will ask me to choose the consent. So it will automatically update the field, and also it will send out an email. So this is one way how you can send them. Now what if you want to mark few data manually? In that case, you may just click on this record for an example. Let me pick up one of the records here. And you may just go to data privacy over here. You can enable and choose this. You can choose legitimate interest or any one of the contract basis or legal obligations and any one of the laws. And let's say I'm going to choose consent. Now, what if I want to edit this consent manually, which I know from where I got the data, or I might have got through the phone, or I would have created manually. So I can just click on update consent details over here and choose whether it's through a call or an email I got the consent through, and I can choose communication preferences which customer would be convenient with, and I can click on save. So this will be changed to uptime. So these are the type of methods how you can go ahead and mark them to the lawful. From the dashboard list view, you can send it. Module list view, you can send it, or the records. Okay. So we have seen the type of ways how you can send it. The next thing we will be looking at is how we can manage and see the complete history of these transactions. So here in CRM, when you open any one of the records, on the left side you will see timeline. When you just click on it, it's going to show you the transactions of those records. So let me pick up the record which we just marked as consent. So I'm going to pick up this Varun and click on timeline. Here, it's going to give me the complete details about this record. Right? So this is how you can look at the data information in the timeline. We need to now look at data subject rights. The right to access. You need to provide the access for the customers to access their data. We are going to let them access through the customer portal. So we have also made provisions to address the various rights that are available in EU residents under GDPR, so that you can easily keep track and fulfill these data requests as and when they are made. So let me just show you a quick look how we can rectify the right to rectification, right to data portability, and stop processing, which is right to restrict the processing. So here in Zoho CRM, you can provide the portal access to the clients. So this is one of the clients where he can access his data from the portal. We have given the portal access only, this feature is only available for the enterprise users. So any enterprise users can provide the portal access to their clients. So this is the client which we have given the portal access. And now if you look at this, the request is empty. There is no process request done here, and only the source is created manually. Now, I have given the portal access, and this is a portal where the customer can see his data. Customer, David, can request for one of the subject rights. So here are the 4 type of subject rights which David can request to us. He can request to rectify the data, which is added here. He can request to export the data, which is again added here. As we saw here in the record, right now there is no subject request from the customer. So now he is merely adding it from his portal. He's asking to stop the processes, request to delete the data. So now all this request, what he has done, will be updated in the records when I just refresh. So I can show you here. When I go to this, I can see it from my CRM. So based on that, I can apply the process. So this way, you can manage the subject rights from the customer portal itself. The first one is he can also delete a customer's data and move it to the block list in a hashed format. Now, we have seen how we can manage the lawful basis in Zoho CRM. Now we will take a few minutes to answer all your questions in regards to GDPR. Thank you for joining us today. So we are at the end of this webinar. We are, if you have, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email us. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded, and I will send out the link for your future reference. Thanks for taking time to be here today. Have a wonderful day.